ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday morning session. Today we will go on verses 9 to 16 of the chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita. From verses 1 to 8, we got to know that karma is inevitable. That is what explained by Lord Krishna to Arjun, that niskarmta is not akarmta. That you have to, akarmta is not niskarmta. That even if you are not doing anything at all, even that amounts to karma. And therefore, karma is linked with life. It is inevitable. It cannot be escaped. And therefore, it is best done in the name of the Almighty or without the reference to the doer. This is what was explained in the first verses 1 to 8 of this chapter. Today we will go from verses 9 to 16, and let us start with verse number 9. यज्ञ के निमित्त किए जाने वाले कर्मों से अतिरिक्त दूसरे कर्मों में लगा हुआ ही यह मनुष्य समुदाय कर्मों से बंधता है. इसलिए हे अर्जुन, तू आसक्ति रहित होकर उस यज्ञ के निमित्त ही भली भांति कर्तव्य कर्म कर. ये बहुत, दिस इज ए वेरी फंडामेंटल अप्रोच टू लाइफ, a reality, a check on reality, that how we should do our action. The first part of this verse says that only those karma which are not done in the form of yajna are the one which bind human being, for which human being is required to take the results of the action. Otherwise, if the actions are done as yajna, then there is no reaction to those actions, and you are not bound by those actions at all. This is a very revolutionary statement, and this is how we can explain the theory of karma. But before we understand this verse and the subsequent verse, it is important for us to understand what is yajna. यज्ञ के निमित्त किए जाने वाले कर्मों से अतिरिक्त दूसरे कर्मों में लगा हुआ ही मनुष्य समुदाय कर्मों से बंधता है. So what is yajna? Now yajna has a very profound meaning which is not easy to understand because of the context of time which has elapsed over 5,000 years ago, when these words were actually said to Arjun. So I will try my best to explain what yajna is, but still I may not fully succeed to explain what it means. But let us try and see what yajna means. First of all, the meaning of yajna is that the actions should be done for the entire, what we call prakriti, the entire existence outside myself. If I am doing action which is dedicated for the rest of the cosmos, then that is called yajna. Now, what does it mean? It means that the whole universe, whole cosmos is interconnected, and I'm a small little cog in the entire process. I'm discharging my function as a small little instrument or cog in the entirety of this functioning of cosmos. And if I treat it that way, then I am performing yajna. But if I do an action that I am the doer and I am changing the results outside, I am the one who is responsible for all the acts which have been done here, then the entire context is different altogether. Then you are not doing the yajna, you are in fact bringing yourself as the doer in the process. So one of the meaning of yajna is that you are doing your action, but you are doing as a small little particle in this entire cosmos, and you are just discharging your functions in that process, and not as you know doer ipso facto. So this is one part which one can explain yajna. The second part, or second concept of yajna is what is called Agni and Som. Now it is said that in nature, most of the actions are performed because of the combination of Agni and Som. Now Agni is the fire in the literal sense, but it also means all that is with energy, all that it with knowledge, that is Agni. And Som is the the cooler part, the part which is comparatively cold, the part which is comparatively inactive, the part which is receiving the results in an inactive way. That is why the sun is called Agni and moon is called Som, because the moon receives the light from the sun and then reflects it. So similarly, there are many actions in the nature which are performed by the combination of Agni and Som. For example, with the sun rays, the water heats up and rises and forms clouds. And then with the condensation process, that is the cooling part, that is the Som part, the it again comes back on the earth in the form of rain or snow or hails. So the process is that the clouds are formed because of Agni, and the condensation process happens because of the Som. So the water cycle starts functioning with the combination of Agni and Som. Similarly, if we take a seed is put into the earth, now the where the seed is put, there has to be fire. That is why earth is actually becomes fertile during the hot weather, and when the rain comes, it becomes very absolutely fertile. All that seeds which are sown inside the earth, they start coming out. So similarly, when you put a seed inside the earth with the Som, that is the rain, it starts giving birth to plants and herbs and trees. So this is the process which gives birth to life. So the Agni with the combination of seed gives birth to, with the application of Som gives birth to life. So this is how the nature works. Every single action in nature happens because of the combination of Agni and Som. Even if we look at the fertility of man and woman, it is the combination of the Agni and Som which gives birth to the next generation, and the life moves on. So to summarize this, the yajna happens at two levels. The first level at the level of human being, where we are performing our action as a small little particle in this cosmos, and because of that action, the entire cosmos runs smoothly, because every single particle in the cosmos performs its action, and that makes the cosmos run. So that is the individual level impact of yajna. Here the individual is not a doer, but only a small, he is only performing his designated function as duty. Like in an engine of a car, there are thousands of small parts. Now those parts, each part performs its function properly so that the engine runs. Each part is not an engine there. It is it is not the part which is running the engine, but without that part, engine also cannot run. So it is basically the combination of all the small little parts and their functioning together that the engine runs. Similarly, there are millions of different parts and particles in this cosmos, like as human being, all other species of life, and the forces of nature, when they work together because of the function discharged by each of the particle, then this is what we call a natural process in which the cosmos runs. And that happens because of the yajna. In terms of cosmos, nature's own functioning is also determined by yajna. The nature operates because one part of the nature produces Agni and another part of the nature produces Som. The combination of the two makes the nature work, whether it is the cycle of water, whether it is the cycle of air, whether it is the cycle of various planets which are rotating around in the solar system. It is also the cycle between the sun and the earth and the moon which makes that happen. So the yajna is happening constantly in this universe, and because of that yajna, the life moves on, the cosmos moves on. So that is the second part on which we have to give emphasis. This is also we call interdependence of nature. Each and every part has a small little fragment of the work which has to be done, and with that work the nature performs a holistic way, in a holistic way, that each single particle is important, and that is called contribution to the yajna of nature. So Agni and Som are important, and that shows that how the nature works with the interdependence of different forces which are operating in the nature. Now, in modern sense, this is also called oneness, because it is understood that the cosmos is not actually divided into fragments, but it is one single entity with so many parts. Like we have one single body with so many parts inside. All of them work holistically. Similarly, the cosmos is one single entity in which all the different components play a role and make it work smoothly. So this is how we look at yajna, and now we will go over to various verses of this section of chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita. So in the verse number 9, it is clearly said that if we are performing our action as a small little particle in this entire cosmos, in that sense we will be performing yajna, and we will not be getting retribution of the action done by us. We will be beyond the action reaction concept if we perform our action as a small little particle and not considering ourselves as doer. Now verse number 10. प्रजापति ब्रह्मा ने कल्प के आदि में यज्ञ सहित प्रजाओं को रचकर उनसे कहा कि तुम लोग इस यज्ञ के द्वारा वृद्धि को प्राप्त हो, और यह यज्ञ तुम लोगों को इच्छित भोग प्रदान करने वाला हो. Now here also it is a very clear demonstration of interdependence between human being and nature. When the nature and human being were created, Prajapati Brahma told them that support each other. If you keep supporting each other, then you will grow together. That supporting each other is basically what is called today ecological system. That one particular species of life supports another species, and another supports another species. The entire animate and inanimate ecosystem supports each other to make it survive together. And that is exactly the concept in this verse. that if you continue to work with each other, if we support nature, the nature will support us. And the whole question of degradation of nature and climate change is actually because we are not supporting the nature. If we support the nature, all that would not have happened. So we are facing a calamity because we are not working in consonance with this verse of Bhagavad Gita. If we support nature, then nature will support us and both of us will grow together and both of us will prosper. But unfortunately, the human being has become very selfish. The human being is working only for one's own self, irrespective of destruction of nature and other forces in this universe. And that is why this situation is arising. And therefore, harmony between nature and man is extremely important. The other species of life do not have that much, mental thinking as we do, and therefore the substantial responsibility lies on us to maintain harmony between humanity and nature so that both of us can prosper together. So this is the very profound meaning in the context of ecosystem, in the context of sustainable development of what we of modern era. And this is possible only if we support nature, then nature will continue to support us. It's very simple. If we keep the air pure, we will benefit from that. If we keep the water bodies clean, we will benefit from them. If we don't misuse water, we do not contaminate water bodies, then we will be the beneficiary. If we contaminate the water body, we will be the one who will be, adversely impacted. So it's a very simple logic. It is based on the fact that nature and humanity should support each other for their mutual growth and benefit. Now, verse number 11. तुम लोग इस यज्ञ के द्वारा देवताओं को उन्नत करो और वे देवता लोग तुम लोगों को उन्नत करें। इस प्रकार निस्वार्थ भाव से एक दूसरे को उन्नत करते हुए तुम लोग परम कल्याण को प्राप्त हो जाओगे। Now, in the verse number 10, it was the whole ecosystem which was in operation. Here, Krishna is talking about the important forces of nature. He's talking about, for example, Devta. Devta is those forces of nature which are significantly important. For example, sun, or the water bodies, or the moon. So these forces which are playing a very significant role in our solar system have been talked about here. And this verse suggests to us that if we uh, you know, keep helping these forces properly, then we will prosper with those forces. For example, if we keep the water bodies properly, then we will be the one who will benefit. If we keep all the green areas properly, we do not cut the trees, then we will be the one who will benefit. So devtas basically means here that the important forces of the nature which are playing a critical role in running of this cosmos, and if we keep track and if we sustain those forces properly, if we work in harmony with those forces, we will both benefit, particularly we, but the natural forces will also be benefiting from that process. So this is more specific to the specific powers of nature, while the verse number 10 was holistic in terms of the entire cosmos. Now verse number 12. यज्ञ के द्वारा बढ़ाए हुए देवता तुम लोगों को बिना मांगे ही इच्छित भोग निश्चय ही देते रहेंगे। इस प्रकार उन देवताओं के द्वारा दिए गए भोगों को जो पुरुष उनको बिना द्वेष दिए स्वयं भोगता है वह चोर है। Now this is further expansion of the same verse, that if we support the forces of nature, the nature of forces of the nature will continue to help us without any disruption at all, and we will continue to benefit. But if we do not work for their protection, for their safeguard, then we will be the one who will working as thieves, because we are destroying the forces of nature, and we will be destroying in the process ourselves. Now here I want to clarify one point. Normally the meaning of yajna in general parlance is that you have the fire and you put havan, actually the prepared material with the ghee in the fire, that is called yajna. Now that is merely a symbolic yajna. That means that in the fire, if we put requisite material, it will give benefit to the entire humanity. That is symbolic. But actually the meaning of this is that in the fire of nature, if we keep putting requisite material, then the nature will support us in turn. And that is the meaning. For example, if we support a plant, the plant will support us. If we support a water body, the water body will support us. If we support the air will support us. That is the real yajna. The symbolic yajna is important because it gives you an idea what yajna is and how it operates in the nature. But the real meaning of yajna is not symbolic. The real meaning of yajna is actually linked to our actions with reference to the natural forces which are operating in this universe. And this is what the verse number 12 further clarifies, that if we continue to work for the protection of the natural forces, those forces will continue to support us without any disruption at all, and we will be doing great job. So this is what we should continue to work for. So this is basically a lesson in what we call environmental protection, and how we can live in harmony with the entire cosmos. Now verse number 13, यज्ञ से बचे हुए अन्न को खाने वाले श्रेष्ठ पुरुष सब पापों से मुक्त हो जाते हैं, और जो पापी लोग अपना शरीर पोषण करने के लिए ही अन्न पकाते हैं, वो पाप को ही खाते हैं. This is again very important verse, that you do your action in the nature. You do all your activities to support the nature. Then whatever you will get in return will be the fine result for your own safeguard and protection. But if you are working only for your own selfishness without protection of nature, then you will be destroying the nature, and then you will be the doer of pap. You will be the doer of harm to the entire humanity. This is what it means, that if we are doing things which are selfish and which has no regard for the protection of the natural forces which are supporting all of us, then what we will reap is a harvest which will be destructive, which will be full of pap. But if we are working for the protection of the nature, and from that process, whatever we get in return, we will be earning a life which is full of altruism, which is full of good results, which is full of positive sentiments. So, for example, a farmer does a farming. He does his, he prepares the land, he, puts the seed, he irrigates the farm, and finally the crops come out. Now that crop has come out in harmony with nature, and that crop is helpful to the entire humanity. But if we are doing crops which are not in harmony with nature, for example, we are destroying the soil with excessive use of fertilizer, if we are putting excessive water into the crops, if we are destroying other species which are also part of that entire process just for our own selfishness, then what we are cultivating is not a good harvest. That harvest will be harmful in long term for each one of us. And that is what is happening today. So if we want to have a good harvest from the nature, we have to work for the protection of all the natural forces. We have to conserve the natural forces. We have to use them judiciously, and we have to use them harmoniously, so that we do not become part of the destructive forces of the nature. Now, verse number 14 and 15, they go together. I will read them together. संपूर्ण प्राणी अन्न से उत्पन्न होते हैं, अन्न की उत्पत्ति वृष्टि से होती है, वृष्टि यज्ञ से होती है, और यज्ञ विहित कर्मों में उत्पन्न होने वाला है. This is one part of the, and this is actually verse number 14. Then verse number 15, कर्म समुदाय को तू वेद से उत्पन्न और वेद को अविनाशी परमात्मा से उत्पन्न हुआ जान, जिससे सिद्ध होता है कि सर्वव्यापी परम अक्षर परमात्मा सदा ही यज्ञ में प्रतिष्ठित है. Now these two verses actually represent the holistic functioning of the cosmos. In the modern sense, you can say the holistic functioning of the entire ecosystem which we face in our surroundings. So what does it mean? It shows the interdependence of the functioning of nature. It says first that all the human beings, not only human beings, all the species of life, they are born out of food, which is a fact that we are born out of the food. Even in our case, even our semen and the productive ingredients of our body, they are also made of the food, and then the reproduction starts. So frankly speaking, we are born of the food, and then we eat the food which adds out to our body, and then helps in our keeping in good shape and in good health. So the food is the one which makes us survive, which is true. And then it says अन्न की उत्पत्ति वृष्टि से होती है. That's another thing, that the cycle of water, which also involves rain, that gives birth to food, which is means the cycle of water, or the water cycle governing the universe, is responsible for our nourishment, and that nourishment actually makes us survive. So this is interdependence of the forces of nature and the survival of various species of life. Then it says vrasti yajna se hoti. Now yajna, here it is very clear. Vrasti means the rain is happening because of the various parts of this cosmos function to make that happen. The sun rays heats the water, then the water becomes light and goes up in the sky. The air drives it to a different part of the world. They go, and then the condensation process makes it, bring it back on the earth in the form of rain and snow and hails. So all this is happening because of different parts of the nature are functioning together, and that is yajna. So the rainfall is happening because of yajna. This is the very clear meaning, that the operation of various forces of nature are contributing to this yajna, which is bringing rain on the earth, and that the rain is responsible for food which we obtain from nature. And then it says, कर्म समुदाय को तू वेद से उत्पन्न और वेदों को अविनाशी परमात्मा से उत्पन्न हुआ जान. Why do we work? Why do we take action? We take action because of the knowledge, because of the existence we have. Our very existence is based on knowledge, and that existence makes us work. Because without work, there is no existence. Every person who is existing in this world has to work, because you cannot live without karma even for a fraction of a second. That is what was said earlier also, and it is clarified here, that because we exist because of the goat, which the next part of this verse will tell us, and our existence makes us work, and that work, in consonance with the work of various other forces of nature, runs this universe, runs this cosmos. This is the meaning here. And then it says that the Ved comes from Avinashi Paramatma, that is the Supreme has given birth to this knowledge. The Supreme has given birth to the entire existence, and that existence has interdependence. And that interdependence makes this universe work in a smooth way. This is what this basically means. This concept of verse number 15 and 16, 14 and 15 tells us how this entire cosmos works, how they came into being. They came into being from that eternal force. That force gave birth to all this nature and various species of life, and all the species of life and the nature work in harmony to make this cosmos runs, to make this cosmos run. And that is the functioning called the interdependence of the entire cosmos, the interdependence of humanity with nature. And this is what the meaning of this verse is. Then let's go to verse number 16, the last verse for today. हे पार्थ, जो पुरुष इस लोक में इस प्रकार परंपरा से प्रचलित सृष्टि चक्र के अनुकूल नहीं बरतता है, अर्थात अपने कर्तव्य का पालन नहीं करता है, वह इंद्रियों के द्वारा भोगों में रमण करने वाला पाप आयु पुरुष व्यर्थ ही जीता है. Now this Srishti Chakra, this is a core, word in this verse, that we have to operate according to the functions of the Srishti Chakra. Srishti Chakra decides who does what. And if we continue to do our action according to the Srishti Chakra, then we are performing our, work in accordance to the what we can call harmony of this whole cosmos, and that contributes to the smooth functioning of the cosmos. But if we go against that Srishti Chakra and we accumulate wealth for our own self, then it is not contributing to the well-being of all. It will become destructive sooner or later. Let me give you another example to explain this. For example, you earn wealth with your own efforts, and you accumulate that wealth and keep to yourself. Then nobody else will benefit out of that, and that wealth will cause destruction of your own self ultimately. But if we spend that wealth on purchasing things, on employing others, giving employment to others, on giving rise to production in different forms, then that wealth will add to the further prosperity, not only of yourself but the whole cosmos around you. Large number of people will benefit from that wealth, and that will ultimately benefit you. Otherwise, if you continue to accumulate and keep that wealth with yourself, then that wealth is of no use. In fact, that wealth not only will not benefit others, but also will not benefit you. So it is the cycle. It is the cycle in which we have to operate, and that cycle is called Srishti Chakra. Chakra means a cycle, and Srishti means the whole cosmos. The cycle of this cosmos, we have to work in accordance to the rules of that cycle. If we do that, then whole cosmos will benefit, and we will be not bound by our karmas. But if we do not operate as per the Srishti Chakra, then we will be destroyer. We will be not only bound by our karma, but we will also be responsible for all the destructive activities that will happen around us. So this is these verses from verse number 9 to 16. They actually expound on the holistic nature of this cosmos and on the duty of human being in making this cosmos function smoothly. The duty is more of the human being because we are the one who have thinking power. We have the mind. That is why the human beings are called man, or in Sanskrit the word is man. So we have the man, and that is we are called manav, we are called manushya, we are called man, because we have this thinking power which other species do not have. And that is why the larger responsibility for smooth running of this cosmos devolves on us. And if we work in accordance to the functions of this cosmos, if we work in contributing to the prosperity of various forces in this cosmos, then we will be actually working for growth of this cosmos and our own growth. But if we work in a destructive way without caring for the forces in the cosmos, then we will destroy the cosmos, and in turn we will also destroy ourselves. So this is the greatest lesson on what we call environmental conservation, environmental protection, sustainable development, and climate change, which has been enshrined in these verses of Bhagavad Gita. So with these verses, I will conclude my session today. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. Thanks a lot.